I still remember that summer morning like it happened yesterday. The sun was just starting to burn through the thin fog that hung over the old military firing range. The smell of gunpowder, oil, and dust filled the air, a mix I had grown used to after years of training recruits. I was there to help set up targets for the colonel's demonstration that day. He was an old-school man, sharp jaw, pressed uniform, and a tone that could cut through steel. We all stood at attention when he arrived. Behind him walked a small girl, maybe 10 or 11 years old. She had messy brown hair tied back in a loose ponytail and wore an oversized pair of safety goggles that nearly swallowed her face. Her father, one of the base's engineers, followed close behind. The colonel frowned when he saw her. "What's this?" he barked, his voice echoing across the range. "Sir," the father said quietly, "she's been begging me to let her see how it's done. Just wanted to watch." The colonel crossed his arms. "This isn't a playground, son. Kids don't belong here." The girl looked down, her cheeks turning red. She didn't say a word, just held on to the little earmuffs hanging around her neck. For a moment, I felt sorry for her. But then something in her eyes changed, like a spark catching flame. The colonel must have noticed too, because he smirked. "Tell you what," he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "If she thinks she can handle it, let her take a few shots. Let's see what the future of the military looks like." A few soldiers chuckled under their breath. I didn't. Something told me this girl wasn't just another curious kid. Her father hesitated, but she stepped forward, chin raised just a little. She picked up the small rifle we used for training, an M4, almost too big for her tiny frame. I saw her hands tremble for a second before she steadied them. Then, without a word, she adjusted her stance, elbows in, cheek resting perfectly against the stock. The colonel rolled his eyes. "She won't hit a single." The shot cracked through the air. The bullet tore straight through the center of the target. Dead on. The colonel blinked. The girl didn't flinch. She reloaded and fired again. Another bullseye. Then another. And another. By the time her magazine clicked empty, there were 10 holes, all clustered so tight it looked like one single wound in the paper. No one spoke. Even the colonel's jaw hung open for a second before he turned away, muttering something none of us caught. The father smiled quietly, his eyes shining with pride. Later, I found out the girl's name was Emily. Her father told me she'd been shooting since she was 6, learning in the quiet woods behind their home. It was her way of spending time with him while her mother was deployed overseas. Years later, I saw her name again, this time on the news. Navy SEAL Emily Carter, the first woman to break nearly every marksmanship record in the program's history. I smiled when I read that. I could still see that little girl on the firing range, goggles slipping down her nose, eyes fierce with focus. The colonel never apologized for what he said that day. But he didn't have to. Because Emily already had the only thing that mattered, proof that strength isn't about size, age, or rank. It's about heart. And she had more of it than anyone I'd ever met.